The Irish Celts gave us myths of warriors, druids, and battles. But behind the epic poetry, oh, some practices were so disturbing, even the bards hesitated to rhyme about them. Think of it as Celtic Game of Thrones, minus the CGI dragons, but plenty of bedroom dragons. Hit subscribe harder than a Celtic chieftain pounding his war drum, and tell me, are you watching this in daylight like a scholar or at 2 a.m. like a guilty bard? Forget fairy tales of noble druids. The Celts were wild. Their feasts weren't just about roasted boar and mead. They were also breeding grounds for the strangest practices. Some nobles believed sleeping with their sister proved divine power, while warriors thought taking captives meant both a ransom and a bed partner. Imagine Tinder, but your matches were decided by who your clan captured in battle. In the dim glow of firelight, druids claimed that intimacy with multiple partners could channel fertility into the tribe. Translation: party disguised as ritual. Archaeologists found carvings suggesting group rites around sacred groves, complete with masks, drums, and probably too much ale. Basically, Coachella, but if the performers were druids and the tickets were cow sacrifices. The Bards, medieval gossip bloggers, didn't hold back either. Verses mocked kings who kept mistresses in stone forts, comparing their harems to pigsties. These songs spread across Ireland faster than modern memes. One king's reputation collapsed not from losing battles, because everyone sang, "He conquers no land, only beds." And don't think the churchmen arriving later were shocked into silence. They wrote furious pamphlets, well, scrolls, about Celtic nobles who shared wives at feasts, calling it the devil's sport. Of course, the louder the condemnation, the juicier the gossip became. Just like today, nothing sells like outrage. Some practices bordered on terrifying. Certain warriors swore blood pacts sealed not with handshakes, but with shared nights. Let's just say diplomacy had a very different definition in those roundhouses. Common folk? They laughed, sang, and gossiped about their elites. Tavern tales mocked druids for confusing prophecy with pleasure. Farmers told children, "Don't wander near the sacred grove, or you'll end up in a ritual you can't explain to your grandmother." Imagine your grandma asking why you smell like smoke, ale, and regret. Foreign visitors, Romans especially, wrote shocked reports. They accused the Celts of barbarous mixing. Of course, the Romans had their own scandals, but hypocrisy never stopped a good smear campaign. By the time Norman eyes looked toward Ireland, the image was set. Wild warriors, drunken feasts, and scandalous rites. It didn't matter how exaggerated, the reputation stuck like spilled ale on a cloak. So next time you picture a Celtic feast, don't just imagine mead and music. Imagine the gossip, the scandal, and the sort of family values that would get you banned from Sunday school. And trust me, the Druids were just getting started. If you thought the Celts just drank mead and wrote poetry, oh no. Their bedrooms could outdo modern tabloids. Honestly, half of these tales would get you banned from Tinder, or at least flagged as community guideline violation. The scandal didn't stop at feasts. Celtic law itself was a playground of shocking allowances. Some tribes permitted trial marriages, 1 year of living together to see if you liked each other. If not, simply walk away. Sounds progressive, right? Except sometimes that trial included swapping partners at festivals. Imagine a Netflix reality show called Marry a Celt in 12 Moons. The Druids claimed these unions pleased the gods, but gossipers joked that Druids were just inventing excuses to join the fun. And join they did, presiding over ceremonies that looked more like drunken parties than holy rituals. Royalty was no better.
Several Celtic kings were rumored to have bedded priestesses for fertility blessings. Convenient excuse, since the priestesses were often the most desired women in the land. One scandalous ballad tells of a king who visited 3 temples in one night. Fertility must have been urgent. Basically, the original temple run. But not all was laughter. Some nobles pushed boundaries so far they shocked even their own kin. Stories whispered of nobles marrying within the family, claiming it preserved divine blood. Bards tore into them mercilessly. One verse compared a king's harem to a pigsty fenced with shame. The crowd roared, reputations shattered. Priests arriving from Christendom were horrified. They wrote endless condemnations, painting the Celts as devil worshippers. Of course, every angry pamphlet just made the commoners more curious. The gossip spread like wildfire, because scandal always sells. Just like clickbait, the angrier the headline, the more people read.
Even foreign traders joined the rumor mill. Greeks and Romans described the Celts as fleshly beasts who had no shame. And yet, these same writers were busy enjoying their own brothels. Hypocrisy much. Among the villagers, these tales became bedtime comedy. Children heard warnings disguised as jokes. If you wander too close to the feast fire, don't be surprised if you come back with more cousins than you left with. Imagine your mom explaining that to the neighbors. The line between ritual and indulgence blurred so much, even scholars today debate. Was it religion, politics, or just pleasure dressed in sacred robes? Whatever the answer, the scandal lived on in verse, song, and rumor. So next time someone tells you the Celts were just warriors with harps, remind them their true battlefield wasn't the field, it was the feast bed. And trust me, the next scandal makes even this look tame. The further you dig into Celtic rituals, the more you realize pleasure and power were always twins. Some rites blended desire with blood, not metaphorically, literally. In certain fertility festivals, couples performed in public as an offering to the gods, while druids sprinkled animal blood to seal the blessing. Basically, the original version of a pay-per-view show, except the audience was your neighbors. Priests insisted it was holy. Villagers whispered it was just entertainment with incense. The line blurred, and gossip spread faster than spilled ale. But the darkest whispers weren't about feasts. They were about sacrifices. In rare tales, captives were forced into acts that mingled humiliation with ritual. To the druids, it was purification. To others, it was cruelty wrapped in robes. Imagine explaining that in your Sunday sermon. The irony? Nobles used these scandals as political weapons. A rival accused of unholy indulgence could lose respect instantly. One satirical ballad mocked a lord by claiming he'd wrestled sheep in the moonlight. Crude, but devastating, and yes, the peasants sang it for years. Foreign chroniclers lapped it up. Roman and Greek writers exaggerated every rumor. To them, the Celts were barbarians who mixed war, wine, and women into a single frenzy. Did they twist the truth? Definitely. Did it sell scrolls? Absolutely. Because nothing sells like sex, scandal, and a touch of barbarism. Even within the tribe, shame became currency. Druids kept records of who attended which ritual, insurance for future leverage. Think of it as a scandalous guest list, a Celtic version of receipts. Villagers, meanwhile, treated it like gossip theater. Women laughed at nobles caught sneaking into temples. Men mocked kings rumored to bless every priestess they met. The more forbidden the act, the louder the laughter. And the church? Oh, they had a field day. When Christian monks arrived, they didn't need to invent stories. The Celts had already handed them a library of sins. Sermons thundered, warning villagers of fire and brimstone. And yet, the pews filled. Not from fear, but from curiosity. People wanted to hear the juicy details. Basically, monks were the original podcasters, with an audience addicted to scandal. The irony is almost comical. What began as ritual turned into satire, and what was condemned turned into legend. Every whispered tale, every bawdy verse, every scandalous accusation added fuel to the myth of the Celtic wildness.
In the end, the Celts gave Europe not just warriors and myths, but scandal itself, wrapped in song, blood, and laughter. And trust me, the next part dives even deeper into the darkest verse of all. If cousin marriage and royal entitlement shocked you, wait until you see the festivals. Because Celtic scandal wasn't always behind closed doors. Sometimes it was lit by bonfires and cheered on by the entire village. At Beltane, for example, couples leapt over fires to prove their passion and fertility. But leaping wasn't always symbolic. Some festivals turned into nights where boundaries blurred, vows loosened, and druids looked the other way. Outsiders describe these gatherings as wild carnivals, part fertility rite, part tavern brawl. Think Coachella, but with less music and more ritualized scandal. The Druids framed it as divine blessing. The villagers, meanwhile, framed it as opportunity. Lovers escaped into the woods, strangers paired off, and songs the next morning made sure no one forgot. For nobles, this was especially dangerous. A single tryst with the wrong person could unleash gossip that spread faster than fire through thatched roofs. And then came sacrifice rumors. Roman chroniclers swore that the Celts mixed sex with blood, feasting, coupling, and sacrificing under moonlight. Were they exaggerating? Almost certainly. But the Romans knew a good scandal when they heard one, and pamphlets of the time practically dripped with horror and fascination. Basically, ancient tabloid clickbait. Celts caught mixing love and death rituals. Druids won't tell you why.
Christian monks were no less creative. They copied tales of demonic orgies where villagers wore animal masks, danced naked, and called it holy. The truth? Probably closer to seasonal bonfires and drunken songs. But in the hands of scribes, it became evidence of pagan depravity, a Netflix horror special centuries before cameras existed. And yet, beneath the satire and scandal, the festivals had purpose. They reaffirmed tribal bonds, eased tensions, and yes, provided entertainment. Scandal wasn't just tolerated, it was ritualized, expected, and replayed in song. The irony? Many of these shameful customs survived, though in toned-down forms. Maypoles, fertility dances, and bonfire nights today carry faint echoes of the very scandals monks tried to erase. So the next time you see a cheerful May Day dance, just remember, it might have started as the Celtic version of Vegas. For the Celts, what outsiders saw as sin, they saw as survival. Scandal wasn't moral collapse, it was community glue. So, if you thought Celtic family drama was wild, their festivals proved that sometimes the whole village joined the scandal. And trust me, what comes next isn't just about ritual, it's about power, politics, and the dangerous game of reputation. For the Celts, marriage wasn't just romance, it was politics. Who you bedded often decided who sat on the throne. Scandal was currency, and the bards were the bankers. A noble could rise to power by marrying into the right clan. But one wrong affair, one whispered rumor of infidelity, and suddenly your political career was on fire, and not in the fun Beltane way. Imagine modern elections, but instead of leaked DMs, it's a bard with a harp exposing your bedroom secrets in front of the entire village. Kings especially had to play it carefully. Many kept multiple wives or lovers, a show of status, but also a source of endless gossip. One wife accused of betrayal could unravel alliances overnight. Rivals loved it. A scandalized queen was the medieval version of trending on Twitter. Everyone had an opinion, and none of it was good. The Druids didn't help either. They often declared divine judgment through rituals, meaning your enemies didn't need proof, just a priest willing to chant against you. Imagine losing your kingdom because a druid said your marriage was cursed. Brutal. Basically, Celtic politics was like Survivor, except the tribe voted you off for sleeping with the wrong cousin. Foreigners, especially Romans, thrived on spreading these tales. They painted Celtic leaders as unstable, ruled by lust rather than law. Pamphlets claimed entire wars were sparked over seductions and betrayals. Did they exaggerate? Absolutely, but the gossip was too good to resist. Bards, meanwhile, immortalized it.
Their satire was merciless. If a king was caught sneaking into a lover's hut, a song about it might echo for generations. These songs weren't just jokes, they were weapons. Whole clans used them to humiliate rivals. Think political memes, but carved into memory by a harp and ale. And yet, beneath the scandal lay strategy. Powerful women wielded sexuality as diplomacy. A well-timed marriage, a whispered affair, even a rumor could realign clans and redraw borders. Scandal wasn't just destructive, it was a tool. But tools cut both ways. A noblewoman branded unfaithful could lose everything. A king mocked in song could never shake the stain. Reputation was fragile, and the Celts weaponized it with surgical precision. The irony? For all their wild rituals and scandalous stories, the Celts understood one truth better than most empires. In politics, perception is everything. So, the Celtic bedroom wasn't just a place of passion, it was a battlefield. And in the next chapter, that battlefield collides with religion, where scandal becomes sin and survival becomes blasphemy.